I'll try that again. Ah, dear, dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. There's always an issue. There's always still no audio, Josh. There should be some audio now. It should be coming through. So thank you very much, Lee Duncan, for actually pointing out that I had no audio. Thanks very much, guys, for pointing that out. Simp channel, still no audio. So guys, if you could let me know that I have my audio up and running, that'd be really, really good. Oh, as always, it is a little bit janky trying to get this thing up and running and live, and I may have missed one or two steps. Oh, I forgot. I had myself on mute. All right, I had myself on mute. Happens to the best of us. But anyway, hi. I'm Josh Keegan, and welcome to Aussienaut Live. This is the watch party as Firefly Aerospace attempts to touch down on the surface of the moon in their Blue Ghost lander, which is M1. Just to let everyone know, this is a watch party. So as soon as their live stream gets started, then basically I'll restream it through here to my Aussienaut YouTube channel followers who are tuned in to let me know whether or not my audio is working. That's all right. All right, guys, just to let you know as well, yes, this is the third or fourth attempt to trying to land on the moon. China has been quite successful in landing on the moon, and they're about the only other ones so far. Intuitive Machines, another American company, has attempted to do that, and they had too much horizontal velocity, and the whole lander tripped over. Same with the Japan lander. I can't remember the name of it at this point. They also didn't successfully land as well. So they had a little bit of problems, and the lander actually flipped over on its lid. So there's a bit of litter currently on the moon that once we get humans up there, we're going to have to look at cleaning that up. And possibly bringing it back and putting it in a museum, unless, of course, we actually want to put it somewhere on the moon where we can go and see it and look at it and all that sort of stuff. So, yes, there is a live stream that's happening over here. If you want to go and join the chat, please feel free to do so. This is a repeat of just this. It's welcome to the watch party. I've got myself a lovely beverage, as always, in a Resat mug. So yeah, if you want to go and have a look at the merchandise, you can go and have a look at that and pick yourself up one of these. Just a little bit of water because I've been talking myself blue to nobody because I had myself on mute. Happens. Oh, but why me? It seems to be a continual thing that happens with me anyway. So yes, if you guys want to do that, just remember as well, the Q&A is also open. So please, if you wish to ask some questions, please feel free to do so. I will pop them up on the display there, so you'll get your little moment of actually asking a question if you need to. So the Blue Ghost Mission 1 is M1. That took off a little while ago and is now actively circling itself around the moon. Okay, so yes, there will be the live stream which will go on full screen. I'll reduce myself to a little tiny little cube in the corner. But as far as I'm aware, that there is at least another 75 minutes from the point that they actually go live before they actually start to before the landing starts to happen. So it's quite a lengthy amount of time. Feel free to go away and come back and join in. All that sort of stuff. I will be here for a little while. I may actually take a break just to let you guys know that this is what will happen during this live stream, because I believe it will be a lengthy one, providing they are actually looking to make the launch attempt. And I keep forgetting the camera's over there. So it's over there on the other side. All right, so just a little bit about Firefly. We'll get into Firefly Space Systems. So Firefly Space Systems was founded in 2014, and it was aimed to create a low-cost launch vehicle. However, a lawsuit from Virgin Galactic in 2014 led to financial troubles, and the company ceased operations 2016. In 2017, the company was re-established as Firefly Aerospace with new management and now new funding. Whoops. Oh, we've gone live. Ooh, that sounds great. Hang on, let's just kick over to the live. All right, their live has started. That's excellent. Good to know. Please, guys, let me know if you can hear this coming through, and that would be fantastic if you can let me know if their noise or their audio is coming through as well. All right, so yes, I'll just go back to the history of about Firefly. So I can't really control their volume at all. I can control my volume and see if I can out yell them. All right, so in 2017, the company was re-established as Firefly Aerospace with new management and new funding. Alpha is a small lift launch vehicle, and this is the first one they've actually produced. So it has a payload. Firefly, by the way, is actually supposed to be an end-to-end space company or corporation. The Alpha vehicle is a small launch vehicle that has a payload to low Earth orbit of 1,030 kilograms, payload to Sun synchronous orbit of 630 kilos. The first stage is actually powered by 4 Reaver engines, and that will actually give them a maximum thrust of 736.1 kilonewtons. Also has a specific impulse of 295.6 seconds, meaning it'll travel at 2,899 kilometers a second. Propellant is RP1 and of course liquid oxygen. Second stage is powered by 1 Lightning engine. Maximum thrust on the second stage is 70.1 kilonewtons and a specific impulse is 322 seconds or 3.16 kilometers a second. Propellant on that stage is also RP1 and liquid oxygen. There is talk of a medium lift launch vehicle, and it was announced in August 2022. There's no pictures of that just yet. I haven't actually was unable to see if there was any images in regard to what that would look like. So unfortunately, all I've got is the picture of the Alpha, which you see there. So in August 2022, the MLV design has undergone several revisions. Now it's known as the Medium Launch Vehicle, or MLV. The rocket is now 4.32 meters in diameter with 7 Miranda engines on the first stage and 1 Vera engine on the second stage. It will be capable of delivering over 16,000 kilos or 16 ton to low Earth orbit in a 5 meter, 16.4 foot fairing. We don't worry about feet. The first MLV launch is scheduled for the second half of 2026 from Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. MLV will initially be expendable, will eventually incorporate first stage reusability. In April 2024, the company reported on social media that it was progressing on track with the Miranda engine testing for the MLV. In mid-2024, the company added the MLV is going to be redesigned for return to launch site and should be ready for Flight 6 in 2026. Also, Firefly also is developing Elytra, a lineup of orbital transfer vehicles designed to move payloads and satellites from one orbit to another within low Earth orbit or geostationary Earth orbit and cislunar space. Elytra would allow smaller rockets such as Firefly's own Alpha to actually deliver larger payloads and more difficult orbits and enable satellite relocation, servicing, mission extension, and deorbiting. So the Elytra comes in 3 different versions, and the first version is pictured here. The Elytra Dawn, which is the smallest, intended for low Earth orbit operations. The Elytra Dusk, which is intended for low Earth orbit to geostationary transfers. And the Elytra Dark, which is the most capable, intended for long duration transfers to cislunar space and beyond. The Elytra Dark will also propel Blue Ghost Mission 2 to lunar orbit and service as a transfer vehicle, as well as deploy ESA's Lunar Pathfinder payload. And then last but not least, their last product in the lineup is the Blue Ghost Lunar Lander. All right, the live stream is well and truly underway. It's saying that it's going to start soon, so we'll just remember to stay tuned for that one. And I'll actually continue to fill you guys in what's going on in the background while that's still happening. So just to let you know, so that's what's happening with Firefly Aerospace. They were known as Firefly Space Systems. However, there was that whole thing where they had a bit of a falling out, and that has since been resolved, I believe. All right, so the Blue Ghost, I really wish, I keep going to say Blue Plan every time I see BG. Oh, 2 similarly named products. But anyway, so the Blue Ghost M1 descent. So basically what you can see on screen there is the descent profile, and I'll go in a little bit closer. descent orbit insertion is during its third lunar orbit maneuver on the 24th of February. Firefly's Blue Ghost lander obtained some additional footage of the moon. The spacecraft was put into a near circular low lunar orbit as a result of the operation, and there was some video of that. Some beautiful, beautiful footage there. All right. So in the background, just let me make sure that this is all still operating. Turn that off a little bit so that way we could all hear. All right. So so basically what's going to happen is it will actually go through a coast phase. So it will actually coast with its engines off while a vision-based terrain relative navigation measures the vehicle's position. The D'Souza guidance, Blue Ghost uses all engines to reduce the orbital velocity from 7 kilometers a second to 40 meters a second to get the position position itself above the target landing site. Terminal guidance, that's where the main engine shuts off and the RCS thrusters actually controls the descent down to the lunar surface. The landing guidance basically descends to a constant 1 meter a second until reaching the lunar surface. Then last but not least will be touchdown. That's where the shock absorbing legs will stabilize the lander, and contact sensors on the footpads will signal engine shutdown, and that will be hopefully all going well, Blue Ghost will land on the moon. All right, so if there's any questions or anything at the moment, we're still waiting for this event to get started. There is a lot of live chat over there. I've got Twitter, which is open as well. Just let me check that. I've got multiple screens here, so just give me a sec. No, not that one, not that one, not that one. Okay, and so far there's been no further updates. So the live stream actually gives me, a lot of hope that they are still successful and still going towards the lunar surface at the moment. So we'll see if that continues to happen, or whether or not that's suddenly suspended. So chat was the initial chat that I was a part of, that was on their own live stream, which is on screen there, which is still going. You can see the bottom of it, towards the bottom of the screen there. Whoop, over that way. Woo, that way. I'll get used to this one day. All right. Yeah, they were saying there's at least 75 minutes once they actually go live before they attempt to make a landing, providing everything is working well and telemetry looks nominal, and they're able to acquire signal back from Blue Ghost. By the way, the Blue Ghost mission is one of 3 planned missions. This is the first to actually provide a proof of concept as to what they did. So they've spent about 6 weeks in orbit. Currently, orbit or getting transit orbit from the Earth to the Moon, about 6 weeks there after their initial launch, and that was on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that particular footage available to have a look at, unfortunately. So yes, we just need to wait until this live event, until the NASA stream gets started. So if you have any questions, please feel free to do so. Ask away. I'll try and answer them the best that I can. And before we actually get into it, look, I can go into some of the detail of why the IM-1 didn't land properly. So there was a navigational issues after orbital insertion, and then basically what happened was they realized the morning of the landing that this is the Intuitive Machines, the first lunar mission, that the landing the lasers were not working, and because they did not turn off a physical safety switch while it was still on the ground. So let's hope Blue Ghost has had a lot more success.
As part of NASA's CLIPS initiative,
Here we go.
will deliver 10 NASA payloads to Mauritius. As a part of NASA's CLIPS initiative, Blue Ghost Mission 1 will deliver 10 NASA payloads to Mauritius, which is in the northeast quadrant research and enabling. This mission in particular marks a significant step forward in advancing our lunar research and enabling sustainable presence on the moon. Really, their job is beginning now.
We have acquisition of signal with the Blue Ghost lander.
Up to us to make sure that Blue Ghost gets
We have acquisition of signal with the Blue Ghost lander.
telemetry. I think I'll look at just a moment the challenges we face. When we first tremendously proud of this game, starting in telemetry, I think all of us had just a moment challenges we face. Just tremendously proud of the team.
If we're successful in construction, what we could be doing is paving the way for people to have a permanent and growing infrastructure of the moon.
You're looking at Firefly Aerospace's Mission Operations Center here in Austin, Cedar Park, Texas. You're looking at Firefly Aerospace's Mission Operations Center here in Austin for the last 45 days since launching from Kennedy Space Center. Where the team has been operating Blue Ghost Mission 1 for the last 45 days since launching.
I can hear a terrible echo. I might have a secondary live stream going on here.
Trip to the moon with our Blue Ghost lunar lander delivering NASA.
Let me just see if I can resolve this. Just a second.
The Vice President of Engineering with our engineering teams on everything from avionics and software to the past structures and propulsion systems with our engineering teams on everything from avionics and software to composite structures and propulsion systems for our Blue Ghost team as your Firefly host, including Blue Ghost.
Thanks, Bridget.
And today,
Firefly's
I'm
Blue
honored
Ghost
to be
Mission 1
supporting
called
the
Ghost
Blue Ghost
Riders in
team
the
as your
Sky
Firefly host.
was awarded through NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services or CLIPS initiative. With NASA's Artemis campaign, we are returning to the moon to conduct Payload Services or CLIPS initiative. With NASA's Artemis campaign, we are returning to the moon to conduct moon delivery with science and will help us continue on that path. And later on, Blue Ghost Mission 1 is touchdown with Firefly Aerospace will help us continue on that path. NASA science and technology Blue Ghost Mission 1 is set to touch down on the lunar surface from now. We will attempt to land in Mauritius, a basin in the northeast quadrant of the moon's near side. We will attempt to land in Mauritius, a little south in the northeast quadrant of the moon's near side, or the side we see here on Earth. A little south of Mauritius might sound familiar, since that's where the first Apollo astronauts landed on Apollo 11 in July 1969. Since that's where the first Apollo astronauts landed on Apollo 11 in July 1969.
Not only for our Firefly team, but the friends and family who have supported us.
Anyone else hearing a terrible echo? Let me know in the comments, please. Trying to isolate where the echo is coming from.
Bringing this historic mission joining us now with our NASA customers have been an integral viewing location just down the road from our mission operations joining us now with our NASA customers watching from a viewing location just down the road from our mission operations center.
First lunar landing. We're joining forces for this historic moment marking Firefly's into this exact lunar landing.
Before we touch down, let's go ahead and review our current mission
into this exact moment.
Blue Ghost just entered. Let's go ahead and review our current mission far side of the moon, where we have limited access to our ground stations on Earth. A planned comms blackout on the far side of the moon, where we have limited access to our ground stations on lunar orbit, about 100 kilometers above the simulation. As we get ready for our descent currently in low lunar orbit, to be about 100 kilometers above the surface. As we get ready for our descent, we'll put Blue Ghost on its going to be in about 10 minutes, and then we'll coast for about critical 19-second burn. We'll put Blue Ghost on about halfway through that coast phase, and then we'll coast for about 50 minutes. We're going to walk through these steps in more detail later in the broadcast, but in the meantime, you can track the mission progress going to walk through these steps in more detail later in the broadcast, and throughout the show, in the meantime, you can track the mission progress that are driven by our real telemetry data from Blue Ghost. And this includes our countdown clock in the top left corner of our driven by our real telemetry data from Blue Ghost. Just under that this includes our countdown velocity in the top above the moon's surface are going to be those gauges under that frozen now, which show our velocity once we reacquire signal with the lander. Those simulation you frozen now is about will activate once we reacquire signal. So we'll be landing on the moon just before you see is about 15 seconds. We also have a graph that will show landing on the moon just before you see it on your real time. And we have a view of the lander's footpads Blue Ghost's descent phase. As we get closer to descent, this graphic will show of the lander's footpads and thrusters, and which footpads have closer to descent on the surface. This graphic will show us which thrusters are firing and which footpads.
So for now, let's take a look back at the 6-week-long journey that led us to this point and got us closer to the moment. So for now, let's take a look back at the 6-week-long journey that led us to this point. Blue Ghost launched on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket in the early morning hours on January 15th. Blue Ghost launched on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket in the early morning hours on January 15th. About 6 minutes after the launch, Blue Ghost separated from Falcon to begin orbiting Earth. Before it went into lunar orbit. After the launch, Blue Ghost separated from Falcon to begin 9 minutes later, which was followed by completion of on-orbit commissioning. The lunar lander acquired signal about 9 minutes later, which was followed by completion of on-orbit commissioning. Now, what you may not know is that Launch Complex 39A is where the historic Apollo missions headed to the moon. Is that Launch Complex 39A is where the historic Apollo missions headed to the moon.
Huge shout out to SpaceX for being such an incredible launch partner. And it was a Blue Ghost was deployed, and a huge shout out to SpaceX for being such an incredible launch partner. About an hour after liftoff, Blue Ghost was completed a 45-day elliptical from Earth orbit to the moon. About an hour after liftoff, has been incredibly successful to date. 45-day transit of what our Fireflies and NASA have collectively accomplished. And this mission has been incredibly successful to date. We've already downloaded 27.2 gigabytes of data, including some incredible payload science from NASA. We've already downlinked 27.2 gigabytes of data, including some for a total of payload science 23 seconds, and traveled roughly 2.8 million during that transit for a total of 523 seconds, and traveled roughly 2.8 25 days in Earth orbit, where Blue Ghost took a phased orbital approach. This included 3.5 elliptical orbits around Earth, where Blue Ghost took a closer to the moon orbital approach. With 3.5 elliptical orbits around lunar injection that got us closer to the moon's gravitational pull, and completed a 4-day transit trans-lunar injection. A lunar orbit insertion burn was then performed to enter the moon's orbit, where Blue Ghost spent the last 16 days. A lunar orbit insertion burn was then performed to enter the moon's orbit, where Blue Ghost spent the last 16 days. This brought us additional to about maneuvers kilometers were performed during this time. That's to where the lander is right now orbit. As we get ready for a descent to about orbit 100 kilometers above the moon.
No pressure, 100 kilometers. And during Blue Ghost's road trip to the moon, Firefly was able to download some pretty incredible imagery. And during Blue Ghost's road trip to the moon, Firefly was able to download some pretty incredible imagery. Times I see these, I am proud, inspired, and frankly speaking, just blown away.
Quite honestly, this is amazing.
I am proud, inspired, and frankly speaking, just blown away.
I'm really hoping they make it.
That Earth can vary depending on the selected route. Some might be a lot quicker than others, but Firefly, that trip can vary depending on the selected route. Some might be a lot quicker than others, but Firefly chose that scenic route.
We were able to conduct rigorous health checks to that scenic route actually. Blue Ghost subsystem. With that 45-day transit, we were able to conduct rigorous health checks on ample time to calibrate our propulsion.
Some of the most beautiful images I've seen.
This route also gave us analyze the data from each propulsion system ahead of each performance and optimize our trajectory. We could then analyze the data from each lunar orbit, better predict performance, more time to calibrate our vision navigation system. Once we entered lunar orbit, which enabled also had more time to calibrate our vision navigation system. We were able to verify payload science operations to enable that precision land trip. And most importantly, we were able to conduct payload science operations.
Our NASA payload teams are pleased with the science and tech operations they have been able to conduct while Blue Ghost has been in transit. Our NASA payload teams are pleased with the science instruments being delivered. They have been able to conduct that while Blue Ghost has been in transit to be healthy. Among the 10 NASA instruments being delivered after we touched down on the moon this morning. All of them are expected to be healthy. The largest clips manifested date in more detail after we touched down on the moon this morning. But off the top, we do have a couple of key highlights we can share. Manifested date in more detail. Global navigation satellite system receiver experiment or Lunar track signals from the global navigation satellite system receiver experiment or Lunar signals from the global navigation satellite system at a record-breaking distance of over 200,000 solutions on the moon, which is really exciting. Lunar is a collaboration between NASA and the Italian Space Agency on the moon, which is really exciting. Instrument, the radiation-tolerant computer, or RAD Italian Space Agency, began demonstrating the computer's ability to withstand radiation-tolerant computer, or RAD PC, also began demonstrating the computer's ability to withstand space radiation operations to collect more of that important data and science. But before looking forward to the surface operations to collect more of that important data to that next milestone. But before we get into that phase of the mission, we're getting really close to that next milestone.
In just a matter of minutes, which will place the lander on its descent orbit insertion burn. As mentioned, this 19-second engine burn is performed on the far side of the moon during a planned as mentioned, this 19-second engine burn is performed on the far side of the moon during a planned comms blackout. So we're going to
Comms blackout is always a lot of fun.
We'll actually get another shot once we reacquire that insertion. If everything looks good, though, then Blue Ghost will continue through its another shot at the descent orbit. We'll then perform a powered descent initiation. Then Blue Ghost will continue through its phase around T-minus 12 minutes. We'll then perform a powered descent initiation. We'll talk more about each of those phases as we get closer. Around T-minus 12 minutes. But in total, our entire descent takes about an hour. We'll talk more about each of those phases as we get closer.
This entire descent phase is autonomous, right? So meaning she's built and programmed to do exactly this. This entire descent phase is autonomous, right? So meaning she's built and programmed to do exactly
commands
this.
to the lander as needed. However, up until that power descent initiation to override the descent and send commands to the lander that lasts about 9 minutes. Up until that power descent initiation, Blue Ghost take the wheel before touching down in about 9 minutes. It's at if you're looking at the moon from the Earth's northern hemisphere, take the wheel. It's a large basin that's located in the northeast quadrant. If you're looking at the moon from the Earth's northern hemisphere, this is a large basin that's located in the northeast quadrant. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that decision was made?
Yeah, of course. The landing site selection for CLPS has been an interesting evolution since the initiative has matured, and the different contracts have been awarded. In the early days of CLPS, companies chose their landing sites that suited their lander performance have been awarded. But in the early days of CLPS, companies chose their landing sites that suited their lander performance the landing site based on the data requirements for the agency's science and exploration goals. NASA selected the landing site based on the data requirements for the agency's science and exploration goals. There's a lot of good data that can be collected here about the basin's chronology and the different volcanic features. There's a lot of good data that can be collected here about the volcanic chronology on the moon and the different volcanic features and evolved. It may also help us understand the volcanic history on the moon, magnetic anomalies on the lunar surface that could interfere with some of the observations we needed to take anomalies on the lunar surface that could interfere with some of the observations we needed to take because there's a drill, but rocks can also be dangerous. The science teams also looked for things like rock abundance because there's a drill, but rocks can also be dangerous. More than anything, NASA wanted to make sure that the science goals could be accomplished while also ensuring it worked for Firefly. NASA wanted to make sure that the science goals could be accomplished while also ensuring it worked for Firefly. Now, which was named after Firefly will be landing in a particular volcanic feature called Mons Latré, which was named after a French scientist who is considered the father of modern entomology, as in fireflies were dozens of insects in the Lampyridae family, commonly known as fireflies or lightning bugs.
And naturally, the Firefly that NASA is actually looking to feature while we're there.
Yes, there is one goal I wanted to highlight. It's personally my favorite goal. So another one of the science goals NASA is looking to do is looking at the limb or horizon. So before, so another one of the science goals NASA is looking to do is looking at the limb or horizon. So before, also allows us to capture visuals of the lunar sunset after Firefly. The location of Mare Crisium also allows us to capture lunar days, which is about 14 Earth days. Fireflies. There was one person who saw this in real life, and that Lunar Day, which is about 14 former NASA astronaut. There was one person who saw this in real life, and that was during Apollo 17, where he observed somewhat of a horizon glow. He captured this unique phenomenon during Apollo 17, where he observed somewhat of a horizon glow. So in order to share this with the science community, caused the lunar dust to levitate from the lunar phenomenon that we can see right here. So in order to share this with the science community, now NASA is interested in seeing this again, this phenomenon years later through the eyes on Blue Ghost. Now NASA is interested in seeing this again, this phenomenon during lunar dust conditions and further proves what the last Firefly is ready to capture this phenomenon during lunar dust conditions and further prove what the last astronaut to walk on the moon saw taking place.
Something out. That's a moment I'm truly excited to witness and share, and maybe make a little postcard and send something out. Let's go ahead and take a closer
Firefly's
look
Blue
at
Ghost
Firefly's
lunar
Blue
lander
Ghost
was designed
lunar
for
lander.
stability. It's about 6.5 feet tall and
Firefly's
11.5
Blue
feet
Ghost
wide,
lunar
so
lander
it has a
was
low
designed
center
for
of gravity
stability
and a wide
It's
footprint.
about 6.5 feet
Blue
tall
Ghost has
and
a robust
11.5
communication
feet wide,
system
so it has
with
a low
one
center of
X-band
gravity
antenna
and
and
a
three
wide
S-band antennas
Blue Ghost
that
has a
enable
robust
HD video
communication
transmission
system
with
from
one
the lander
X-band
to
antenna
Firefly's Mission
and three
Operations
S-band
Center in
antennas
Texas.
that enable HD
The lander
video
has 3
transmission
solar
from
panels
the
to
lander
help power
Firefly's
Blue Ghost
Mission
and our
Operations
10
Center
NASA
in Texas
payloads.
during transit
The
and
lander
on the
has
lunar
3
surface.
solar panels to
For
help power
propulsion,
Blue Ghost and our
has
10
8
NASA
RCS
payloads
thrusters
during transit
or reaction
and on the
control
lunar
thrusters
surface.
that Firefly
For
designed
propulsion,
and built
Blue
in-house.
Ghost has 8
These
RCS
thrusters
help
help
maintain
maintain
the
reaction
lander's
control
orientation
thrusters that
during
Firefly
maneuvers
designed and
independently
built in-house.
perform the final
These
descent
thrusters help
by
maintain the
pulsing for a
lander's
soft
orientation
landing.
during
We have
maneuvers
12
and
attitude
independently
control
perform the
system
final
thrusters
descent
that help
by
point the
pulsing
spacecraft
for a
in the
soft
right direction.
landing.
These
We
are
have 12
actually the
attitude
same
control
ACS
systems
thrusters
we
used
use
that
on our
help
Alpha
point the
rocket and
spacecraft in the right
electro-orbiting
direction.
vehicles.
These are
Blue
actually
Ghost
the
has
same
one main
ACS
engine
thrusters
that
we
provides
use on
high
our Alpha
thrust
rocket
for our
and
lunar
electro
orbit
orbiting
insertion
vehicles.
and braking burn
Blue
prior
Ghost
to
has
landing.
one main engine
The
that
lander
provides
has
high
4
thrust
propellant
for
tanks
our
that
lunar
carry our
orbit
hypergolic
insertion and
fuel
braking
and
burn
oxidizer.
prior to
We
landing.
have 2 pressure
The
tanks
lander
that
has
carry
4
our
propellant
helium.
tanks that carry
Blue
our
Ghost is
hypergolic
equipped
fuel
with
and
49
oxidizer.
struts that
We
connect
have
our
2
upper
pressure
and lower
tanks that
panels
carry our
to provide a
helium.
rigid
Blue
structure.
Ghost is equipped
These
with
struts
49
were built
struts
in-house
that connect
using
our
the
upper
same
and lower
lightweight
panels
carbon
to
composites
provide a
we
rigid
use on
structure.
Firefly's launch vehicles.
These struts were built
Blue
in-house
Ghost has
using
four
the same
carbon
lightweight
composite
legs
legs
and
and
foot
foot
pads
we use
that
on
utilize
Firefly's
crushed
launch
core
vehicles.
honeycomb to absorb
Blue
shock
Ghost has
and
4
stabilize the
carbon
lander as
composite
it
legs
touches
and
down
foot
on the
pads
lunar
that
surface.
utilize crushed core
Our foot
honeycomb
pads
to
have
absorb
contact
shock
sensors
and
on the
stabilize
bottom
the
that
lander
signal
as it
engine
touches
shutdown
down on the
upon
lunar
landing.
surface. We
Our
have
foot
vision
pads have
navigation
contact
software
sensors
that
on the
supports
bottom
landing
that signal
by
engine
identifying
shutdown
potential
upon
hazards on the
landing.
moon, such as rocks
We have
and
vision
craters,
navigation
before
software
determining
that
the
supports
safest landing
landing
site.
by
Identifying potential hazards on the moon, such as rocks and craters, before determining the safest
Now
landing
joining
site.
us from Firefly Mission Operations Center is Ray Allensworth. Firefly's spacecraft now joining us from Firefly Mission Operations Center is Ray Allensworth. Firefly's spacecraft
for stepping off
program
console to
director
chat with
who
us
you may
before
have
landing.
recognized
How are
from our
you
Blue
feeling?
Ghost
How
launch
is the team
podcast.
feeling?
Yeah.
Thanks for stepping
I'm
off console to
feeling
chat
good.
with
I
us
think
before
the
landing.
excitement
How are you
is
feeling?
rising.
How
I'll
is the
say
team
the Mission Op
feeling?
Center right now is actually like really
I feel
calm.
good. I think
So
the excitement
that's nice.
is
The
rising.
team's
I'll
practiced
say
this
the
many
Mission Op
times,
Center
so
right
like
now is
I think they're just ready for it to happen really calm.
The
So
viewers actually
that's
just
nice.
got
The
a quick
team's
look
practiced
at
this many
Blue
times,
Ghost,
so
but I'm
like
sure
I
there are
think
a
they're just
lot of
ready for it to
questions
happen
about
now.
how the lander's performing now
The
that
viewers
she's in
actually
space
just
and
got a
almost
quick
at her
look at
destination.
Blue Ghost,
But I'm sure there are a
What
lot
is
of questions
surprising
about how the lander's
most about
performing
how
now
the
that
lander's
she's in
been
space
performing
and
during this
almost at her
transit?
destination.
Yeah, that's a great question. I
What
think
has
the
surprised
lander
the
is
team
really,
the
I mean, it's
most
really
about
behaved
how
really
the
well. We
lander's
haven't
been
had any
performing
major
during this
anomalies,
transit?
which is
Yeah, that's a
fantastic.
great question.
I think the
think
team's
the
kind of
lander
lander
is
is really,
really,
you know,
it's
really behaved really well. We haven't had any major anomalies, which is fantastic. We kind of had to gear in on that. Get used to, you know, coordinating with 10 different payloads can be kind of complicated, but so far it's gone really well. So that's also, you know, coordinating with 10 different payloads can be kind of complicated, but so far it's gone really well. So
manufacturing
that's
process. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And Ray,
Yeah,
I really wanted to
absolutely.
hear
So,
about the design
a lot
and
of our Blue Ghost is built
manufacturing
in-house,
process. Can you
which
tell
is
us a little bit
amazing.
more
I'd say
about
really
that?
focusing on our
So,
vertical integration.
a lot of our
There's
Blue
a lot
Ghost
of
is
carbon
built in
composites on
which
there,
is
I think
amazing.
all
I'd
of
say
our
really
primary structures
focusing
are
on
carbon
our
composites
vertical
made up in our
integration.
rocket
There's
range.
a lot of carbon
So our
composites
avionics
on
are
there. I
harnessing
think
our
all of our
battery
primary
structures
and
are
all of
carbon
our fluid
composites
lines.
made
So,
up in our
you know,
rocket
going
range.
into this,
So
you know,
our
we really wanted to
avionics
build
are
a really
harnessing
robust
our battery,
system, but also
and
a
like
really
all of
like
our fluid
structurally
lines. So,
sound
you know,
one.
going into
you
this,
look at our
you know, we
lander
really
and
wanted
it's
to
a
build
little
a
bit
shorter
robust, a little bit
system, but
wider,
also
so
a
a
really
really
like structurally
designing it
sound one.
for
You know,
stability on
you
the
look at
moon.
our lander and it's a little bit shorter,
Awesome.
it's a little bit wider, so we're
So, of
really,
course,
you know, designing it for stability
I mean,
on
we
the
talked
moon.
about
Yeah,
the
so it
RCS
doesn't tip
thrusters
over.
a little bit, right?
It doesn't really matter how
we like
wide
to
you make
typically
it.
talk
It really is dependent upon how slow it's going and whether or not it'll hit a rock on the way down, similar to what's happened with the Japanese lander.
We were already doing the testing, and then in we started development, we did all of the development, the qualification, and by that December we were already doing the testing, and then in 2 years we did all of the development, the qualification,
you worked on
the
these
acceptance
RCS
testing,
thrusters,
and
if
then
I
we built
remember
all of the
correctly. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that evolution or that process?
You
worked on these
it's a lean team,
thrusters,
right?
if I remember correctly. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that evolution or that process?
I mean, it's a lean team, right? So not even 30 years old. Yeah, 2022 with maybe 4 people. I mean, it was just such a fast turnaround with all of that. Not even 30 years old. We learned a lot from NASA. And I mean, it was just such a fast turnaround with all of that development, that through all of that iteration. We learned a lot from NASA. Some pretty successful and previous Apollo missions. We took that heritage and through all of that iteration and testing
to the moon. That's had some pretty today, but inspiring, just to say the least. So, Ray, thank you so much for being here. Bridget, thanks for your insights today. We want you to get back to mission control, but we'll catch you hopefully so much for being here. Bridget, thanks for your insights.
See you later.
We want you to get back to mission control, but we'll catch you hopefully
a
after the landing.
very
Different and innovative approach for doing science on the the moon. In 2018, NASA explores a new, lunar surface under the Artemis campaign. We want to leverage the capabilities of American companies. The lunar surface under the Artemis campaign, we want to leverage the capabilities of American companies. Use commercial services and owning the missions and
Okay, I've managed to do something completely wrong. So just give me a second, guys. I will come right back and fix this up. So just give me a few minutes.
Increasing the amount of science we can achieve. This high-risk, high
still in a planned communications blackout. Lander is still in a planned communications blackout. 10 minutes. And we expect to gain signal in approximately 10 minutes after Blue Ghost emerges from the far next set of milestones before landing. Get ready for that next set of milestones before landing. Let's take a moment to talk through this payload manifest on Eclipse delivery with 10 payload manifest on Eclipse delivery with 10 NASA science and technology. Diving right into the NASA payloads on this flight. We have the next generation lunar retroreflector. We have the next generation lunar retroreflector, meaning it does not power on, which is a passive instrument, meaning it does not power laser light from Earth back in the same direction. Incoming laser light from Earth back in the same direction can be used to calculate the moon's shape and distance from Earth. Can be used to calculate the moon's shape. Another payload on this flight. The lunar environment heliospheric X-ray imager or lunar environment will aim to capture the first global images will aim to capture the first global images of the magnetic field that shields Earth on how solar radiation impacts us here on Earth. Insight on how space transit impacts us here on Earth. For more than 50 hours total. Operated for more than 50 images from the lunar surface. In preparation for collecting images from the lunar surface. RADPC is the radiation-tolerant computer.
Yeah, we're looking at about FBI Florida-born. Yeah, mate, we're looking at 51 minutes and 03 seconds, so around about 51 minutes until it actually looks to go to land. So a little bit of time before that actually happens.
Provides created by radiation. RADPC provides the cost-effective solution, which if effective could improve the safety for future Artemis missions. Could improve the safety for
Yeah, I'm aware the audio is horrible, and I'm trying to work on that right now. I seem to have found an echo, and there's no other stream that's going on. So what I might do is I might actually end the stream, and I'll come right back in just a minute. So I'll finish the stream, and then I'll come back. So just give me a second.
Jointly developed by NASA.
And blackout lander status check, starting with payload.
Nominal.
Com.
Nominal.
Ground software.
Nominal.
Flight software.
Nominal.
AVI.
Nominal.
VNS.
VNS is nominal.
GNC.
Nominal.
FIDO.
Wait 3.
Copy. Prop.
Standby.
Copy. TCS.
Nominal.
Systems.
Holding.
Copy. Have C.
Nominal.
Copy. Holding for FIDO and prop.
All right, we heard some of those call outs right there. So teams actually are a little bit ahead in terms of gearing up to attempt. They perform the descent orbit insertion. The DOI took place on the far side of the moon. During
Flight
DOI...
is nominal.
Copy.
All right, we're hearing calls out. Everything continues to be nominal, but during DOI, teams were actually in that planned communication.
Flight prop is nominal.
Copy. Systems.
Systems nominal.
C.
C is nominal.
Copy. All consoles nominal, post DOI and blackout.
Fantastic news. So we came out of that communications blackout and we completed
GNC
that.
for 545.7.
All right, looking like we're back. Apologize, everyone.
So we
for
completed
that.
that DOI, the descent
That
orbit
was weird.
insertion, and
All right.
we are coming out from
Alcon
that.
ops.
Everything is looking
Advise
nominal,
there
so
is
the nominal
7.5
calls were made around the
minutes
control room,
until we
and
start
looks
our
like they're ready to go. So it looks like there is a landing,
This
that it's
slew
about to
will
happen.
vehicle from
So
pointing
they've
at
just
the
gone through and
sun
done the call outs.
pointing along the anti-velocity vector, and this will be one of 3 remaining slews of the mission. The second slew will occur when we switch our ephemeris to use the navigation filter solution. This is expected to take about 10 seconds, which means that we may or may not observe this in our live telemetry data reads. The third and final slew will occur about 6 minutes before ignition, and this will take us from pointing along the anti-velocity vector to pointing along the final descent vector.
Hello,
in
Billy.
preparation for
Welcome to the live
breakthrough.
stream. It's a little bit hit and miss sometimes, but yeah, this is what happens when you're on the arse end of the planet.
Some of the nominal call outs we were expecting a little bit ahead of schedule. And Bridget, we did tune into the Mission Operations Center to hear some of those nominal call outs. But can you give us a little sense of what we can expect next?
Alcon and Ops, this is VNS backroom. After reviewing the logs, I've seen successful configuration in video mode on all 10 Argus cameras.
That is wonderful news.
And you can also see those gauges have started to update now that we have that acquisition of signal.
Alcon FC on ops. Want to note that in about 9 minutes, we are going to have an LGA swap during that slew that was just mentioned. We'll see a slight blackout for up to 40 seconds.
Now that's wonderful news. You heard it here first. Firefly just completed that successful descent orbit insertion burn. Blue Ghost will now continue to coast with all engines off for approximately another 20 minutes before that next milestone, that final no-go poll to begin landing operations. All right, so we do have something really fun while we wait for that next set of milestones. Bridget, you brought me a little gift here. It kind of reminds me
Yep, this is the coast phase. The engines will remain off, and a vision-based terrain valve navigation, terrain relative navigation measures the vehicle's position in regard to the ground. So it's going to be there for a while.
What do we have here?
Exactly. So this is one of our foot pads that we actually tested. And it's funny that you mentioned that it looks like something you might stir fry in, because we actually, for the first demo of this, we took an industrial walk and tested it. That went well. So then we actually leveraged
Whatever
our
works,
composite
right?
technology,
Industrial
and we made,
walk?
an actual prototype of what our foot pad is that we've flown here.
So what are we looking at here with this foot pad?
So, and it's actually pretty cool too, because in Apollo, we took a ratio of the lander mass they had to the diameter of that foot pad. So we took that same type of design, scaled it for our lander. And so that's what you have at the base here. And then you have a ball and socket joint here for the lander to allow it some mobility when it lands. So it's in a stowed position that's not quite perpendicular to the ground. And then once it lands and it starts contact with the surface, it'll snap perpendicular. And I'll spin this around here. And we actually have one of the connectors here. So when you see those foot pad sensors turn blue on your screen, what's actually happening is there's a brake wire that runs up this leg to this connector, and this will actually snap. And that disconnected joint is what triggers those foot pad sensors to turn blue. So pretty cool design.
And that's that graphic we'll see a little bit later on.
Exactly.
And so from what I understand, this is actually, that you said it's a real test article that was used before she went into space.
Exactly.
It's in really great shape.
It is. So successful design. I mean, you can see some scratches on the bottom, but we don't have any major dings or anything like that. Yeah, definitely very successful.
And you said that there is a way for some level of shock absorption.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, we are planning to touch down at about 1 meter per second, but we are still designed for something as much as 5 Gs and only 2 legs landing. You know, we want to try to put in enough margin into this as possible so we're successful. And what we, I don't actually have a piece of the honeycomb core here, but you
Just a quick question for people out there. I answer in the questions and answers section. Do you think this will be successful or not? I'd be interested to hear what you think, guys. Just let me know. Just go into the questions and answers section, and we'll get to that in a second, and we'll run through a couple of those to see whether or not you think that the Blue Ghost will actually be a successful landing today.
I'm fascinated by this, and as we wait to learn more about about the mission, some of our other NASA payloads on board will continue to talk a little bit more about those. So another instrument on this flight is the Lunar Instrumentation for Subsurface Thermal Exploration with Rapidity, or what we know as LISTER. It's equipped with a drill and a thermal probe which will dig up to a depth of 3 meters into the lunar surface and take some thermal measurements. By making similar measurements at multiple locations on the lunar surface, LISTER could shed light on the geological processes that shaped the moon. Now, next up, we have the Lunar Planet Vac, which is designed, it's LPV, and it's designed to collect lunar soil samples from the surface using a burst of compressed gas to drive the soil sample into the container, and additional instrumentation will then take images of the container's contents and transmit those results back to Earth. The LPV payload is designed to help test low-cost technologies for collecting and analyzing samples, improving our ability to search for water, helium, and other potential resources on the moon. We learned during the Apollo missions that lunar dust, or regolith, is very challenging to work with. It's extremely abrasive and actually clings to everything: gloves, boots, vehicles, and mechanical equipment. Now, next up, to learn about the potential challenges that dust poses to future Artemis-era missions, the Regolith Adherence Characterization Instrument, or RAC, will measure how lunar dust accumulates on different surfaces and materials. The data captured could help more effectively test, upgrade, and protect spacecraft, spacesuits, habitats, and equipment in preparation for continued exploration of the moon. NASA's Lunar Magnetotelluric Sounder, or LMS, will probe the interior of the moon to depths of up to 700 miles. Now, that's 2/3 of the way to the lunar center. The measurements will shed light on the differentiation and thermal history of our moon, a cornerstone to understanding the evolution of solid worlds. Now, while we eagerly await that next milestone, let's talk a little more about the team. As you can imagine, there are several people that have worked tirelessly to make this mission happen. And Team Firefly's Blue Ghost team are lovingly known as the Ghost Riders.
They are. And right now we have about 20 Ghost Riders on console at Firefly's Mission Operations Center just north of Austin, Texas, that you can see on the screen right here. In total, Firefly has more than 50 team leads that rotate on console throughout our 60-day mission, including transit and surface operations. These console leads represent key operations and Blue Ghost subsystems, including propulsion, thermal, GNC, avionics, payload leads, and more. They've been checking Blue Ghost health status and sending commands to the lander throughout the entire mission.
And Bridget, you come to us with this kind of experience too, right? You were on console for Blue Ghost launch, if I remember correctly, and for many other rocket test campaigns. What's it like being in that room? How does it feel?
High adrenaline, for sure. But it's a moment that you train for continuously. Take launch, for example. As a propulsion engineer, you've already been hands-on with the hardware from day one. You've worked on the valve design, you've tested the subcomponents, you ran the engine development, the qualification, the acceptance campaigns. By the time that you're actually on console, you've already been through so many iterations of tests, which all lead up to that moment. And Blue Ghost is no different. It might be our first mission, but this team has already run 6 engine test campaigns, over 24,000 engine starts.
Wow.
Along with valve and battery tests, thermal vac, shock, vibe, and countless ops rehearsals simulating every off-nominal scenario imaginable. And this team is they're ready.
Everything under the kitchen sink.
Exactly. And everyone, engineering, supply chain, business development, welders, all came together to make this happen. We asked them who they dedicate the mission to, so let's listen to what they have to say.
If I could dedicate the mission to anyone, it would be the Blue Ghost engineers at Firefly.
I'd have to dedicate it to my brother. He's very special needs, so he doesn't get to necessarily pursue a lot of these kind of things.
I'd probably dedicate it to Dr. Woody Flowers.
If I could dedicate this mission to anyone, it would be my daughter.
I would dedicate it to my son, Bear. He's 1.5 years old, and he's named after me and my dad, Barry. Our names are on the plaque that's on Blue Ghost, so our names are going to be on the moon forever, and I think that's really cool.
Oh, that is cool. That is really cool.
It would be to my 4 kids, Mateo, Elijah, Mia, and Isaac.
It would be my 2 kids, Zara and Zach. I had both of them while at Firefly while working on this Blue Ghost mission.
If I could dedicate Blue Ghost Mission 1 to anyone, I'll dedicate it to my wife and kids.
It would be my grandpa, and then Eloise, Amelie, and Margot, and my 3 nieces.
So I would dedicate Blue Ghost Mission 1 to my family.
If I had to dedicate Blue Ghost Mission 1 to anybody, it would be our family and friends.
It would be my parents.
It would have to be my parents.
It would be my parents.
It would be my parents.
I mean, I think it has to be my parents.
If I could dedicate Blue Ghost Mission 1 to anyone, it would be my mom.
It would be my mom.
It'd be a split toss-up between my fiance, soon-to-be wife, and mom.
If I could dedicate Blue Ghost Mission 1 to anyone, I think it'd be all the people that came before us.
If I could dedicate the Blue Ghost Mission to anybody, it'd be my grandmother.
I think I would dedicate it to my parents and my wife's mom. Her mom passed a couple years ago.
It'd be my dad. He passed shortly before I joined Firefly.
So I would like to dedicate this mission to the future generations of space exploration.
I would dedicate Blue Ghost Mission 1 to every single person in high school or college or even graduated and working in a different field who thinks that they're not good enough for space. I thought the same thing until I tried for it, and I was able to do it. And there are many, many people who are far smarter than me who feel the same way. So give it a shot. Take your own moon shot. That's what I did.
Space is for everyone. And look at all those families. There's a lot of families in behind just the employees.
I'm inspired and just a little emotional after watching this. All the Fireflies and their families have been supporting the mission, including someone who's joining us right here. We have Ariana Miri, one of Firefly's spacecraft flight software engineers. Hello, and I'm sure you've been on the edge of your seat like the rest of us.
Edge of our seat is also pucker time. Things are just going to pucker until acquisition of signal.
It's an incredibly exciting time, not only because, all the technology and goal behind the mission is so exciting, but also because of what it means to so many people. We're landing on the moon. It sounds like something so outside of everyday life, but honestly, for a lot of people, this has been their everyday life for the last few years, thinking of this mission. They've met so many friends while working this mission. They've met their partners, so it's impacted a lot of lives, and it's not even on the moon yet. So.
And you've worked on both the Blue Ghost mission and Elytra mission. Can you tell me a little bit about the team dynamics? How does that work?
Yeah, there's a lot of cross-pollination, a little bit of everything. The culture at Firefly is honestly fun to work on because you have people that are incredibly capable in their fields, but also just fun to work with. Everyone expects a lot of you. You have to own your piece and deliver for the mission because no one can get to space on their own. But at the same time, everyone's always willing to lend a helping hand. If you share a problem you're stuck on, or honestly even mention it in front of a lot of Fireflies, they're very eager to offer their help and make sure we can all get there together.
That's really exciting. And excuse me, Ariana, I think a lot of people that are watching this are seeing that you've started your career at Firefly. How did you get to where you are? What did you study to bring you to this role?
Yeah, so I was a computer science major in college, and so not an aerospace major, actually. And a lot of people don't have aerospace degrees that work in aerospace. There's a lot of jobs that are required to help us get there. And I applied online, and I'm not joking when I say this. I applied not thinking that I'd get it. Not humbly, I just applied as an exercise. Almost didn't do it, and it ended up really well. So I think about what would have happened if I didn't apply. So like Joseph said, if anyone is thinking about it, nothing bad can happen. Just give it a shot.
Yeah, take your shot. And I think I have to ask, because we just watched this wonderful tribute video, who are you dedicating this mission to?
Yeah, despite obvious contributions to me being here, my parents, I'd have to give it to them, because I wouldn't be here without their constant support and their leading by example, I would say. And it's also not mine to dedicate, but I would also give it to the other Fireflies who worked on this mission. I've watched people pour their hearts into this, so I'll definitely be thinking of them when we land.
Is there a particular memory or experience that stands out in your mind in the last few years?
The last few years, all I can think about is the recent events. Yeah, there's so much craziness. I've learned that, you know, all the people behind these great technologies are just people, and they're always fun to work with. Recently, honestly, the memory coming to mind is doing push-ups in the operations room. Once we launched Blue Ghost, we've had, you know, 24-hour comms since launch, and even during the blackouts once we entered lunar orbit, where there's always people in the room, we never leave console, so that's a lot of overnight long shifts, and so you got to do stuff to stay awake, and that's been
Take out that nervous energy,
exactly,
maybe, too.
You know, we're all supposed to be swole by the time we land, so.
All right, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your contributions to the mission. We look forward to talking to you after landing. Now, through CLPS, NASA is buying a complete robotic lunar delivery service. Under this innovative model, NASA is one of many customers alongside commercial companies, universities, international partners, all with the common goal of sending payloads to the moon. Now, there are risks, and NASA is embracing a higher level of risk tolerance by leveraging commercial solutions to send rapid, low-cost deliveries to the moon, fostering a growing lunar economy. Let's take a look.
Landing on the moon is hard. We're going back. Under this Artemis program, we're going to be sending humans to the moon.
Well, technically, we're not actually going back. We're going to Mars now, according to the new administration. So, yeah, we'll see how far that goes, whether or not a lot of these lunar programs will be cancelled.
Facilitating a lot of the early science, the things we want to learn before we even send humans. CLPS stands for Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS.
The services part is the key element. Ordinarily, when NASA delivers a payload to the surface of the moon, they do it with a commercial partner, but NASA controls the building of the vehicle. Now, we're buying the service of delivery of our lunar payloads to the surface of the moon.
It is a delivery service, akin to a delivery service that you'd have here on Earth.
NASA will provide payloads to a commercial company. They decide how to get it to the moon. They have to develop their own lander, but they also have to manage the entire end-to-end mission.
It's meant to provide affordable, rapid, frequent access to the lunar surface through American companies.
We're funding different companies.
We have commercial companies that are competing to win task orders to deliver our payloads to the surface of the moon.
One of the goals when we started CLPS was to help establish a lunar economy.
Somebody has to do it first, and then it becomes commercially available. Then they're able to crank them up. Then they're able to make it more affordable. And so the lunar surface is just the next frontier for commercial.
Okay, we're about 26 minutes out. I'll just make a note here, guys, that the distance to the surface has come down to 42 kilometers. It was originally at about 60 odd kilometers. They're still traveling quite fast at 6,007 kilometers per hour. They still haven't got into the D'Souza guidance yet, which will actually use all its engines to reduce its orbital velocity from around about 1.7 kilometers a second, which they're not there yet, down to 40 meters a second to position itself above the landing site. So
build up the lunar lander, integrate payloads, get to the lunar surface and land safely.
They've been able to demonstrate that they have very, very good technical depth and the ability to design and execute missions. We're willing to take more shots on goal. And we aren't risking human lives. And in the big picture, if we're flying missions at 1/10 of the cost of a NASA mission, and we fail 2 of them, we still get 8 missions for that same price.
Even with 1 or 2 or 3 failures, this is still a very economical proposition. It's a risk posture which is more risk tolerant than NASA is accustomed to. There's not a single one of these companies that's willing to bet their mission on a coin toss. Every one of them is doing what they can in order to have the most successful mission possible. But the important thing to realize is that risk tolerant does not mean risky. And the rewards are a long-term ability to get payloads to the moon inexpensively, frequently, and rapidly.
We want science, so we can then put more of our resources on even more science, exploration, and technology payloads, and get more of return on investment when we get to the moon.
CLIPS provides tremendous benefit across the scientific and economic communities.
So there's a lot we'd like to learn about the moon to help human habitation and prepare us for missions to Mars and beyond.
So the moon is the first step.
Now let's head over back to Tony to speak to one of NASA's leaders.
Thanks, mate. It looks like it's about 3,700 miles per hour for all those people who are now joining us who'd like to know what kilometers per hour means in freedom units.
How are you feeling with less than
Sorry,
24 minutes to go
I shouldn't have gone there, but I did.
I can't tell you how excited I am right now to get to be here and experience the landing on the moon. What that's coming up is very, very exciting. So I'm very excited for this moment.
Same here. Now, Janet, can you tell us why it's important that we maintain an American presence on the moon?
Well, I think this administration really wants to keep America first. And I think the way that we keep America first is by dominating in all the domains of space. And the space domain of space we're going to capture recently tonight is going to be on the surface of the moon and around the moon. So as long as we keep dominating that space, I think we're going to be putting America first. We're going to make America proud. We're doing this for the U.S. citizens. So very exciting, and I really think we need to keep pushing forward. And as it's been described all this evening, the Commercial Lunar Payload Services, this program, which marries NASA, a little bit of seed money with the commercial private industry, bringing them forward, building that lunar economy. Building that economy is what's going to make us dominate in and around the moon, so we've got to do it.
That's very well said. Now, on this mission, what are you most looking forward to learning about from all the NASA science that's flying aboard?
So there's a lot of NASA science. You've heard that multiple times tonight. And you heard about the, the study of the lunar surface and the soil and all that. But the one payload that I'm most excited about is the electrodynamic dust shield, because it was that technology was developed at the Kennedy Space Center, and I know that team is so excited to see that technology go to work on the Blue Ghost.
Yes, so for those who don't know, the lunar regolith is actually magnetically charged. So if you put a magnetically charged something near it, which is what they're going to be testing, is whether or not that'll actually provide any shielding in regard towards making sure that dust won't be a problem
as we go forward.
I'm really excited of learning of that one myself, and just like you, I'm also a Kennedy gal, so huge shout out to the EDS team. Now, Janet, is there any message you'd like to say to our public here as we get ready to land on the moon?
Yeah, I would say thank you to everybody for their support, and I would also in particular like to thank the Firefly team. Earlier today I was talking to Jason, and he was talking about his team of people, and I got to see a couple of them, but I can tell you they are motivated, they're dedicated, they're relentless, they persevere, and they're really going to be successful. And then to the NASA teams that has all worked very hard to get to this moment, I want a huge thank you and shout out to NASA, the CLIPS, the Science Mission Director, for all they've done to make this moment possible.
Well, Janet, thank you so much for joining us here today. Now we'll send it back to Nilofer and Bridget.
Thank you both for those insights, and shout out to KSC. We are now in the final moments of descent. If you're just joining us, this is the NASA Firefly lunar landing broadcast for Blue Ghost Mission 1 as part of the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services, or CLIPS initiative. With just less than 21 minutes before touching down on the lunar surface, the team is planning to conduct that final go, no-go poll for the powered descent initiation, or PDI.
She stuttered over her words too.
Minutes. Now,
why can't people be professional and not stutter over their words?
A few more steps before the actual touchdown.
That's me.
What can we expect in the upcoming descent phases?
For our next descent phase, Blue Ghost will perform a fully autonomous powered descent initiation, which is a 9-minute braking burn that utilizes all engines to reduce Blue Ghost's orbital velocity from 1,700 meters per second down to just 40 meters per second. It's during this time that Blue Ghost uses D'Souza guidance to position itself above the target landing site, where we'll pitch over from a horizontal to a vertical orientation.
And if you're not familiar with D'Souza, it's considered the optimal guidance law for planetary lighting. And Christopher D'Souza is credited for this. D'Souza's model is actually very similar to the guidance model used during the Apollo moon landings.
Exactly. During the D'Souza guidance phase, Blue Ghost is fully autonomous.
No pressure.
We won't be sending any more commands to the vehicle until we touch down on the surface. We trust the lander to do what she was designed to do. Following D'Souza, Blue Ghost will enter the terminal guidance phase at T-minus 100 seconds to touchdown. Blue Ghost's main engine will shut off, and our RCS thrusters will perform the final descent by pulsing as needed to reduce our descent rate down to just 1 meter per second. So it's like a slow walking speed. It's during this phase where our vision navigation system is actively scanning the lunar surface, assessing things like craters, slopes,
Provided it
rocks,
gets turned on, that is.
automatically select a hazard-free target that's within
Not
our
like
landing
the intuitive machines. They forgot to switch it on before it left the actual pad.
enter the landing guidance phase.
Sorry.
And it's during this
I've really got to stop.
descent rate is
I know it's all wonderful. I really hope it works, and yeah, I really hope it goes off without a hitch. But yes, I have seen the not live streamed, but been watching the live streams of other landings in the middle of the night here in Australia, while it's happened in the early hours or during daylight hours in the US. Yeah, only to have the lander at the last moment trip over, or in the case of Japan, flip on its lid.
in a second, anywhere from 60 milliseconds to 235 millisecond bursts. So about as quick as a bird flapping its wings, or as long as a blink of an eye. Then, once the lander's foot pads detect contact with the surface, they send a signal for the engines to cut off. And what you see on the screen now is a visualization of these contact sensors to show which of those foot pads have successfully touched down on the surface.
Now, that procedure sounds so simple when you explain it, but we both know how much work it got to get to this point. We know how we are going to land, but what will we see? And most importantly, what about the pictures?
So
ooh, here we go.
There's two types of antennas that we talk about here. We have an S-band antenna, which you can kind of think of as our lower resolution SD antenna, and then you have your X-band, or our high resolution. The plan is to use our S-band antenna to send our first images, hopefully within about 30 minutes of a nominal landing. But if that data rate is too limited, we're going to switch to X-band. This takes a little bit longer to deploy and calibrate, but once it's up, we're going to have a much faster downlink for high definition images and video.
So that was really helpful, and hopefully we can expect those images to come in shortly after we touch down on the lunar surface. So at this point in time, we got a little preview of that landing sequence, and thank you so much for sharing what we can expect. I'm really excited to see those first images.
Step 47.2.
So we heard that call for that go.
Okay, we got call outs.
Teams have been training for this mission and are now getting ready for that go, no-go poll ahead of that PDI we talked about, or that powered descent initiation. Here's what to expect now. If the poll's a no-go, Firefly does have another opportunity to do another orbit around the
All common
moon.
ops. SLU has begun to our final descent vector. 1 minute until SLU completion. GNC verifies step 46.2.
Okay, we've got 1 minute to go.
So as I was saying, based on how this goes, if we are a no-go,
This
then
is the
we
go,
have
no-go
another
poll.
shot at orbiting the moon and doing a powered descent initiation. But if we're go, Blue Ghost will take the wheel and perform that autonomous descent operation Bridget just went over with us. Now let's
GNC
go.
verifies step 46.3.
We're going to go
All
ahead.
common ops. 5 minutes to power the descent ignition.
Perfect. We heard that 5-minute call out.
Consoles 1 minute away from PDI go, no-go poll. Step 47.2.
Let's tune into
Okay,
mission operations
1 minute.
center
And
and
apologise. They just made a second call. We're down to 23 kilometres. Still travelling at 6,073 kilometres per hour.
What you're seeing on the screen here are those positions in the Mission Operations Center, and we'll see those light up as they give their go or no-go commands.
And on our screen right now, we are seeing our flight.
Agreed. Let's go. Come on. Come on. I like to see this stuff. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm live streaming. I like to watch this stuff live, and I like to bring you along with me.
GNC verifies step 46.4.
nominal as we stand by for that go, no-go pull.
Aussienaut, VNS is reporting position covariance below 50 meters.
And that VNS is our vision navigation system.
Thermal state is 11. We will be starting PDI at 97% state of charge.
All consoles, flight on ops, PDI cannot be aborted if the lander has transitioned to descent critical. Also at this point, we're going to proceed with our power descent initiation, go, no, go, pull, starting with payload.
Go.
Com.
Go.
Ground software.
Go.
Flight software.
Flight software is go.
AVI.
AVI is go.
VNS.
VNS is go.
GNC.
Go.
FIDO.
Go.
Prop.
Go.
TCS.
Go.
Come on.
Systems.
Go.
Come on.
Go.
FC.
Go.
Yes.
All consoles
Yes,
for those
here we
landers
go.
Go for power descent initiation.
Nice.
And y'all heard it from
Aussienaut,
Charles.
3 minutes remaining until power descent initiation.
We are go for the power descent initiation. In the next
This
15
is going to
minutes,
be
we're going
fun.
to tune into our
This
Mission
is going to
Operations
be
Center as the
fun. I
team
can't
monitors
wait.
the vehicle.
This is where I get
prepares for that
excited.
final
I'm
descent.
sorry. I'm at my desk.
Now there are some of those visuals that you were describing earlier in the
I've
show.
got a desk here, and yeah, I basically got too excited, and everything just started
wobbling
wobbling when I started bouncing up and down. So, yeah,
And we have that
I'm
visualization
pretty excited.
of Blue Ghost as it's continuing its horizontal trajectory, getting ready to get into that vertical mode.
Exactly. And so, like we said before, that's real
Hello,
telemetry
Jim.
that's driving that
Welcome to the
simulation
party.
y'all are seeing on your screen
Nice
here.
to have you on board,
That
sir.
yellow vector you see off to the left, that's pointing in the direction of the sun. And that blue vector there is the direction of the Earth.
And we see those footpads as well as all of the engines in this image. So really exciting to see our MOC, our Mission Operations Center, as well as that data-driven telemetry. All right, if you are just
Aussienaut, 2 minutes remaining to power descent initiation.
with that 2-minute call out, if you are just joining us, this is the NASA Firefly joint broadcast for Blue Ghost Mission 1 as part of the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative. We are standing by as PDI process and procedures do continue. Just as a reminder to those of you who are tuning in, the graphic visualization that we do see is it has about a 15-second delay, and we did cover that at the top of our broadcast. So just as a reminder, there is that 15-second delay. So we may hear that call for landing before the data does get there, but we would like to point that out and keep that in mind as we continue to follow along.
That last call out you heard was propellant settling, so we actually use these ACS
Yeah,
thrusters.
this is the stomach is in knots, or this is puck time. This is where everything you basically don't breathe almost for the next 12 minutes, or lightly breathe.
So exciting.
And you clench up. Quite honestly, clench up. I'm clenched up, and I'm not even there. I'm on the opposite side of the planet.
Thrusters on our Alpha launch vehicle as well.
You know all about propulsion and engines. It's fascinating. I'm learning so much today.
30 seconds to PDI.
And there you see a couple folks on console. So that is Raj and Will Adams. So they are supporting on TCS and prop. It's for propulsion and thermal control systems.
Here we go.
10 seconds to PDI.
Let's stand by and tune
6,
into mission
5.
6, 5.
Never mind then.
3, 2, 1.
Ah, she's firing up. There we go. Ugh.
So the lander is performing that 9-minute powered descent initiation using all of its engines to reduce. And you can see that on the simulation right there with the engines going. Main engine is on.
Main engine's kicked on.
Critical.
Always good.
All consoles flight on ops and abort is no longer possible.
In other words, the computer has taken over the event, and there's no more human interaction from this point.
And this is where the lander is positioning itself closer and closer.
Temperatures nominal.
Nominal callouts.
Guidance mode, D'Souza, 48.1 confirm.
And we heard that D'Souza guidance.
Attitude and rate errors look like they converged back to nominal after the transition.
Oh, that's always good.
Current draw is nominal.
Slight wobble, but now back on track.
Tank pressures are stable, props nominal.
And remember, this burn
VNS
lasts
is stable, nominal.
about 9 minutes.
You know, Jim, I always keep everything clenched.
Is well behaved.
Ooh, it's behaving well.
Exactly.
That means it's not wobbling. It's not going off course. It's actually behaving as expected.
You just heard the call that comm is stable as well.
Come on.
Link is stable.
Please, I'd like this.
Aussienaut ops, 9 minutes remaining to pitch over. 455 kilometers south of the target, 16 kilometers above it.
We're reducing our velocity down to 40 meters per second in this burn. And so on that gauge, what you'll be looking for is about 144 kilometers per hour.
Oh.
Just as folks are tuning in right now, our PDI is actually that braking burn. So we're continuing to slow our speed down and bring the vehicle from a horizontal configuration or horizontal orbit into a we're pitching over the lander into a vertical configuration.
Exactly. All of our RCS engines are firing at a mid to high throttle here in the anti-velocity direction to slow us down. We're shedding all of that horizontal velocity.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling they're going to do it. I'm getting the feeling they're going to do it. I don't know why. This is giving me a lot of confidence. Like a lot of confidence. Hang on, sorry.
8 minutes remaining to pitch over. 370 kilometers south of the target, 17 kilometers up.
This is giving me a lot of hope.
So 1 minute completed.
A lot of hope.
9-minute braking burn.
Let me just turn up my volume.
Errors remain nominal.
Aussienaut VNS is passing over a shadow.
And so what you guys see on the screen here is that graph taking us through all of the different phases into landing. We are in that power descent initiation.
VNS is past the shadow and returning to lower covariance.
Main engine temperatures continue to rise nominally.
Yeah, Jim, this is tense. Really tense.
Excited, nervous, anxious. Lots of feelings.
7 minutes to pitch over. 290 kilometers south, 16 kilometers up.
Yeah, it went up slightly. That was weird.
GNC flight on ops, verify 48.2 when ready.
We'll go.
Here we go. It's 7 minutes out.
Seeing our various folks in the Mission Operations Center that are continuing to follow along during this braking burn called Power Descent Initiation, or PDI.
Sorry, I'm getting concerned.
Trimming out, target achievable, 48.2 confirmed.
Come on.
92%.
Come on.
Left of the room there, where the camera's pointing.
Do
You're
it.
gonna see that's 100% of those teammates with us from ASI and Space NG. So you're seeing folks from ASI, GNC1, GNC2, FIDO. You got Space NG with Vision Navigation Systems.
6 minutes remaining until pitch over. 222 kilometers south, 15 kilometers up.
All right, we can hear that number.
VNS is crossing over the final ridge as we enter the Marquisium.
We're getting closer and closer to our landing site, Mare Crisium, on the northeast part of the moon, on the side that faces us here on Earth. Now there is a NASA console position as well.
That's right. They're on the opposite side of the room, probably in the corner the camera can't see right here.
Sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't. I was talking, but not, my mouth was moving, but no words were coming out. So yeah, we're at 14 kilometers there, Jim, and the most important part of all of this is the velocity is still dropping. It doesn't. It's irrelevant. It is relevant the height, but yeah, hopefully they've got enough fuel budget to actually cope with a higher altitude should they be above it.
She's been phenomenal on this mission, and she's been with all of the payloads since the beginning.
Here we go.
Interviewing her for our podcast, and she was phenomenal. She knows these payloads like the back of her hand.
5 minutes remaining until pitch over. 140 kilometers south, 13 kilometers up.
So far as they're tracking the health of the payloads and making sure everything is performing as expected?
Absolutely, yep. And we actually have 3 payloads on site for landing. We have EDS, Lister, LPV. The rest will be remote.
So 3 out of the 10 payload teams are currently near the Mission Operations Center on site, and the remainders have their own control centers in other locations.
And so this is a primary operations center.
Seeing drops to validate.
Okay, coming up next will be the terminal guidance, where the main engine will shut off and the RCS thrusters, so through reaction control thrusters, will pulse as needed to control the descent.
An extra data review. Eyes up there.
So you talked about
4 minutes remaining to pitch over. 110 kilometers south, 10 kilometers up.
On the screen right now, you see Joseph Marlin and Will Coogan. These are our CEs, our chief engineers. A fun fact, Will Coogan actually used to be a carpenter before he went back to school for his PhD.
That we're in validate, so we're not global positioning.
Okay, less than 10 kilometers.
All these varying backgrounds really helps you in your current work, so it's really impressive to see this team come
Broken the
together.
10-kilometer mark.
Not only are we seeing the teams in the room, but there are folks that are in back rooms, as you mentioned, that are also supporting this mission
Batteries
today.
at 90%.
Exactly.
So we see that speed has come down.
VNS now sees we're back in global generating solutions again.
That's 7 kilometers from the surface.
Terminal guidance is due to shut off soon.
Breaking
So terminal guidance is where the main engine shuts off, remember, and the reaction control thrusters pulse as needed to control descent.
Getting closer and closer to that lunar surface.
Still quite at a high velocity.
Attitude and body rate errors still nominal.
Waiting for that velocity to come down.
We don't sit still in one position, one role too long, and so we do for sure have a lot of cross-functional teams here.
And there we have our flight director back.
They've got about 1,600 kilometers per hour to go to wash off.
I'm appreciating the call outs. They're easing my nerves a little bit right now too.
Yeah, mine too. A lot of nominals in this, and I'm happy about that.
As you can see on the graph right now, is getting ready to continue that braking burn and that pitch over to put it in that
VNS
vertical.
is reporting position covariance below 25 meters.
Two minutes remaining to pitch over. 35 kilometers south, 4 kilometers up.
We are standing by for continuation of that powered descent initiation or braking burn.
The velocity is still too high at this stage, 1,200 kilometers per hour. That is really, really fast.
To pitch over.
Verify 48.3 when ready.
That was Charles.
It needs to wash off a whole bunch more speed.
What subsystem?
Like a whole bunch.
Structures.
Flight laser rangefinder has measurements.
Okay, that gives me more comfort. We're down below 1,000 kilometers per hour. That's much better. Much, much, much better.
Remaining until pitch over. 13 kilometers south, 2 kilometers up.
We'll actually add in that mechanisms and structures seat
Power is nominal.
right after landing.
Yeah, all nominal, Jim. I agree with you.
Our engineer there, and he's designed all 3 mechanisms on board the lander that he helped also build and test.
Come on,
Those
slower.
systems become much more prominent after landing, so we'll see him come in later.
They brought up the landing graphic for all the pads on the bottom of the lander.
That graphic come up we talked about a little later with the lander foot pads, so our contact legs will turn.
VNS position covariance below 5 meters.
We're at 900
30
meters.
seconds remaining to pitch over. 4 kilometers south, 900 meters up.
Still 400 kilometers
so
per
those
hour.
will turn blue once we've confirmed some level of contact, and we'll continue to
700
track
meters
as
up.
we get closer and closer
Coming in.
to the lunar surface.
291.
Over the course of the completion.
Needs to be down to 144.
You can see the graphic on the screen demonstrating that Blue Ghost is getting into that vertical configuration and doing that pitch over as expected.
Ah, yes,
Engine on.
excellent. 135.
Terminal guidance.
Excellent. 113.
500 meters up.
Okay. Here we go.
Batteries
Main engine's cut off.
from here on out,
Okay.
it's just going to be those
400 meters.
400 meters, 74 kilometers an hour. It's coming down. It needs to be less than that.
Engines that we see firing right now in our
Landing guidance, Blue Ghost sends the constant 1 meter a second until reaching the lunar surface. 50 kilometers an hour, that's pretty high.
VNS is relative.
260 meters.
We're coming in.
First redirect occurred.
We're coming in. You can do it. You can do it. Come on, come on. Sorry, I've started crossing stuff. Come on, this is tense. Come on, 29 kilometers an hour. That's ideal. That's a fast walk. Maybe a small run.
Preparing for this.
We're down 120 meters at 24 kilometers an hour.
A lot of callouts here about vision navigation.
17 kilometers an hour. We're coming down. Breaking down into a stride. Okay, we got fast walk. Everything's looking healthy. We're 61 meters out. 50 meters out. 11 kilometers an hour. We're coming down to a slow amble.
30 seconds remaining.
As long as there's no horizontal velocity at the time that it goes to touchdown. Hopefully this has got a wide base. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. 5 kilometers an hour. Even better. At 10 meters. 4 kilometers an hour. Excellent. As long as it doesn't run out of fuel. 6 meters. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Contact. 1 kilometer an hour. Contact on 3. Engine should shut off.
Vehicle shut down.
3 contact sensors tripped.
Engine shutdown confirmed.
Power's nominal vehicle is charging.
IMU reports lunar gravity and it is stable.
Ah! Are they down? They touched down! Yes! Yes! They won't do it, so I will. Hang on just a second. There we go! Yes! Congratulations, Firefly! The shock-absorbing lens has stabilized the lander, and the contact sensors on the foot pads signal the engine shutdown. That was amazing. Oh, talk about your pucker time. Oh!
Congratulations, Bridget.
Ooh.
And to our Firefly and NASA teams.
Yes.
What a nail-biting moment in history.
Yes.
The joint teams are now celebrating or enjoying this much-deserved celebration at our landing event here in North
I wish
Austin,
this was something
Texas.
a bit stronger, but it's only water. But
This marks the beginning of the next phase of the mission, surface operations.
I can't wait to see these live images coming up.
Honestly,
this will be great.
Overwhelmed. I am so proud of our team. Firefly has a way of
Now
constantly
everyone
exceeding
breathe.
expectations. This is a perfect example of that. Over the last 4 years, so many dedicated Fireflies across different teams and disciplines came together to make this happen. Now we have a permanent presence on the moon with every employee's name engraved on a Blue Ghost plaque.
Oh, that is so
now
cool.
when we look up at
Everyone's
the moon, we
name
can
on
tell
the
our
on the
kids
plaque.
and
Oh,
future
that is
generations
so
that their
cool.
family name is up there. Thanks to this team and everything
Wow.
they've achieved. But it's not over. We will be operating the payloads and gathering even more data.
Please,
that will
please,
make
please,
an
please. I
even
want to see.
larger
I want to
impact
see
on the
some
future of space
images.
exploration.
Please don't cut it off.
And now this lunar lander is gearing up to conduct those surface operations and downlink that anticipated image from the lunar surface. So while we
Yep, I'm
stand
hanging out
by
for the lunar-
that,
for the image.
we have Tony back with some guests from NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Tony.
No, Tony's gone. I would be too. I'd be down there with them. Oh, wow, yeah, on the moon. Firefly is on the moon. Firefly Blue Moon has landed.
Thank you, Nilüfer and Bridget. Now joining us is Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate, Nikki Fox, and then the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration with NASA Science Mission Director, Joel Kearns. Nikki, Joel, I mean, what a momentous occasion. How are you guys feeling? We're on the moon!
I understand that.
So my question is, what do you think of that Firefly team?
Yeah, they're all right.
It is such an exciting time. I mean, what a huge congratulations to everyone. Now, Nikki, can you tell
I'm
us a
still
little bit
streaming.
more
I'm going
about
to remain
why this
streaming
landing
until we can get that
location was
first image. If we get
chosen
that first
and why,
image, then basically I'll look at
is on the near
of
side
shutting
and
down
compared to
the
when
live
some
stream.
other landing
But yeah,
sites are
we'll just
chosen
bask
for
in a
other of our
moment for a
Eclipse
couple of minutes
flights?
of they're celebrating success.
I'm sorry, I'm
So
so
hopefully in that
excited right
time, while they're celebrating the success, we'll get another huge roar, and we'll get to see the first image from the Firefly lander on the moon. So hopefully it'll be there. I'm just going to stick with it for the moment. Yeah, because that was super exciting and that was super cool. Yeah.
We want to study the
congratulations to everybody in the Firefly team. Obviously, all the team, their friends, their family. Having your name on the moon is just amazing.
So we chose the
what an achievement! What an achievement!
To go to this incredible place on the moon.
Wow.
That we did. And Joel, this is the most NASA science that we have sent on Eclipse flight thus far. Can you tell us a little bit more then? What is the primary goal, or what are we hoping to find then with all of this?
So we're landing in a place that's of great scientific interest, but it was also at a very achievable place to land. And there are studies that range from studies of the sun that we'll conduct from the surface of the moon, studies of the abrasive dust of the regolith. We're going to drill into the surface. We're going to pick up regolith. It was going to answer so many questions over this one lunar day long mission. It's going to be really one for the history books.
That's right. And speaking then about all those questions that we're going to answer, Nikki, tell us, what then of the science and data that we learn on the moon, how can that help us back here on Earth?
So there are so many ways that, everything we do in NASA science is so interconnected. We study everything from the center of the sun to the edge of the universe. Right now, focusing on the moon, learning more about particularly things like, how that regolith, how it sort of interacts when we land, what the plume looks like, how sticky it is, if we can clean it off those surfaces, just telling us all about that. For us here on Earth, all this technology that we're sending up to the moon continually all has real-world applications as well. And so everything that we do, coming back and serving humanity and inspiring the world with NASA science.
That's right, we sure are. That's really fascinating. Talking more about, some of the scientific instruments that we're sending. As we know, Joel, some of those science instruments have flown on prior Eclipse flights, and they're also scheduled to fly on future ones. Why is that? Why do we choose some of the same instruments for certain flights and different ones for others?
Just while they're chatting in the background, I understand that the payloads are really, really good. Don't forget, guys, so as soon as it looks like that IM2, so that's the Intuitive Machines 2, has been launched, and it looks like it's going to be landing on the moon soon as well. I'll try and bring that to you, providing it's not during the middle of the work day. Guys, I have a job, believe it or not. I don't do this full time. It doesn't pay the bills. No, I'll try and bring that one to you as well.
The moon, and based on that, to better understand Earth.
I can't wait for that. And, Nikki, talk to us then about some of the lessons learned then that we have, learned from now our other Eclipse flights that were applied for this one or, for the future ones.
Yeah, I think one of the amazing things about our Eclipse providers is they are all there for one another. Even today, Jason was sharing stories about what some of the other teams have been sending. Good luck to Firefly today.
I tell you what, we'll get the first image when that control room suddenly explodes with people with open mouths going and pointing at screens, because that'll be the first image, I'm sure, before they release that out. So I haven't seen that yet. I'm just looking for people's reactions at the moment. Also a good time to leave. The blonde lady just left really, really quickly. Might have kids to pick up or something, or got to get home or something like that. But yeah,
congratulations to everybody.
Yeah, very well put.
I'm just waiting for that first image. It's got to be here.
How are you guys feeling
They're continuing on this live stream. Normally, sometimes when they land, they say go over to our social media and find out what's going on, and then you'll find out that way. But yeah, I'm sure that with this live stream still going on, there is going to be a first image that has to be coming through.
Feedback from all those amazing people in the mock, and it's just incredible it was just. I don't know, seeing it come down and then you're suddenly like, oh my God, it's 5
Billy.
kilometers above the
Oh,
surface.
3:42 a.m., Billy.
Amazing,
Jeez,
amazing
mate.
achievement.
Wow.
I'm so
It is
proud
only
of everyone in this room
quarter
because
to
you all
7 here,
had a
so
part in
6:45
putting this
p.m.
lander on the moon.
in
Whether
Brisbane,
you're a
Queensland,
Firefly,
Australia,
or
which is
whether
where
you're
I'm
a
retransmitting from.
family member of a
And
Firefly,
8:45
or whether you're
in
a
Scotland.
member of the amazing NASA science
Good on
team.
you, Jim. Thanks very much for the time update, mate. I'm just going to check their Twitter feed, see if there's anything in the Twitter feed that's come up.
Thank you, Nikki, Joel, so much for joining us. Now we'll send it back over to our hostess, to Nilofer and Bridget.
Welcome back. For those just joining us, Firefly successfully touched down on the moon in an upright, stable condition, becoming the first commercial company to complete a fully successful moon landing. We expect to have the first image within the next 10 minutes, depending on the signal strength of our S-band antenna.
10 minutes.
The timing will vary based on the position of our lander and the ground stations on Earth. If the S-band data rate is limited, we'll likely need to switch over to that X-band antenna, which needs to be deployed and calibrated. At that point, we'll plan to share the first image during our press conference in a few hours.
And I don't know about you, but
Okay.
we're on
They're
the
gonna do it
edge
in a
of
few
our
hours.
seat waiting for these first pictures. How are you, or how does it feel knowing that Firefly is leaving their mark on the moon?
I don't think there's another feeling that even remotely compares to this right now.
I'm sure you've been... So, you know what? I have to ask, because we talked all about the engines. We saw that great visual data telemetry. I know you have something else to show us. Do you have anything else here?
I always have goodies. I always have props.
You did work on our engines.
We love hardware here. Take a second here.
We're just
to
doing
get out.
a quick safety briefing on, or a safety practice on
Yeah,
something
Jim,
that
it is
Bridget
10
has
minutes.
for
It
us to
seems
see
like a
today.
lifetime movie, especially with these two guys rummaging around on the floor. An RCS, reaction control thruster, control system.
All right, so I love talking about Spectre. This is a 200 Newton Hypergol engine.
Ooh, Hypergol.
You will notice I am wearing gloves.
Right.
The Hypergol propellant is actually a toxic propellant, and while this has been completely decontaminated, we still want to take safety precautions just in case. But yeah, you can tell that so there are, if you want to actually show on that lander, but there are 8 of these engines on the lander. So we have pairs on each side.
Right there. All right.
Exactly.
Okay, so we see our 8, and those are the Spectre engines that we see right here. Got it.
And then these are, it's a biprop engine, so we have 2 different propellants here.
Okay.
And because it's Hypergol, we don't need a third ignition source. They just ignite on contact with each other, which is pretty cool. And these are our Kraken main valves. We love to have fun names here at Firefly. And then it'll go through the injector here, combust in that thrust chamber, and then expand out through the nozzle. It's pretty impressive. So this is what the team designed, developed, tested, and built in about a 2-year time frame.
And these 8 Spectre engines, those were the ones that were firing in those quick pulses like you described, like a bird flapping its wings or at the blink of an eye.
Exactly. So they just continue to iterate and pulse just like that.
You've taught me a thing or two on these engines. I really appreciate that, Bridget.
Well, that's
so
amazing.
How are you
and
going
yes,
to be
rocket
celebrating
scientists
this
always have the
moment
coolest
with your
toys, Jim.
family, with your
And by the way,
friends,
just in
with your-
case you were
with
wondering,
your
while I
fellow
turned my camera
Fireflies?
off just briefly, I managed to spill
home and
water
give
all
my
over
kids a
myself.
great
So
big hug.
yeah, there's a little bit of down
First off,
here.
and then make
Taking
you
a
sleep a
drink.
little
They were saying something. I looked. It went all down my front.
All right, and so while we wait for that photo to come in, we're going to go back and check
Yeah,
the
yeah.
with Tony.
Who knows? All right.
Hey, thank you, Bridget. We are now here with Jason Kim, the Chief Executive Officer for Firefly. Jason, congrats on landing on the moon.
Congrats to all of our Fireflies.
How does it feel? How is it, how are you and the Firefly teams feeling right now?
They're just fired up right now in the mission control room. I mean, they were just pent up, holding it all in because they were calm and collective and cool the whole time. Every single thing was clockwork, even when we landed. And then after we saw everything was stable and upright, they were fired up. They were fired up. We got some moon dust on our boots.
That's awesome. Awesome. And now you can use the EDS shield, EDS payload to take that off.
Yes, I love that EDS payload. I love all the payloads.
Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. We love all 10 NASA payloads.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. You know,
There's
Jason, this is Firefly's
accounting for
first
stupid,
moon
really.
landing. What message would you like to give to the team that have worked so hard on this mission?
Well, I'm just in awe of all of them. I've been that way since I, witnessed the company, during their launches, and then finally with this whole campaign. I'm just in awe of all of our Fireflies and just all the hard work that they put into this, all the extra sacrifices they did from their family and friends. So thank you to all the family and friends. All that design work, all the testing, all that simulation, it finally paid off. And we're just so glad and happy for our team.
Absolutely. And now, you're on the moon. I mean, Blue Ghost is finally on the moon. What do you think, or what do you hope that this mission means, or this message sends to all the aspiring and future engineers and scientists that are looking to one day enter the aerospace industry?
Well, if you look at everybody in that mission control room and everybody at our company, you don't have to always be a rocket scientist, although we have some great ones at the company. We have people from all walks of life. And in that control room, people that started off with music careers or seamstress or welders, they're all from all kinds of careers, and they just landed on the moon. So, we hope this inspires the next generation of kids and STEM, K through 12, because, have them dream big. You never know where you're going to land. We just landed on the moon. So we hope that the Fireflies today inspired a whole generation.
That's right. There's space for everyone in space.
That's right. Especially in Texas.
It was discussed earlier, Firefly not only develops lunar landers, but you guys also build and launch rockets. Can you tell us a little bit more about what else is in store for the Firefly team?
Well, right after this, we're going to get ready for our first launch of the year. We're going to launch our 1-ton rocket called Alpha. It's America's rocket. And we're going to launch.
There we go. They're going to launch a rocket. They're also going to. We're still waiting for the first lunar image, which is fantastic.
And we're just honored to launch that satellite. And we're going to launch multiple times.
Yeah, Billy, I'm the same. Too young to remember any of the Apollo missions. I wasn't born yet. But yeah, I got to see this one, and I got to see it live, which was always
so we're
fantastic.
going to continue to launch at cadence. And then we're delivering our medium launch vehicle first stage by the end of the year. We just finished our first stage LOX tanks, so we're incredibly proud of that. And then, we were working on Blue Ghost 2, Blue Ghost 3 as well, so we're not done. We're not finished with these moon missions. And, I think there's this Electra spacecraft that we don't hear too much about. That's a space maneuver vehicle, and we're going to launch the inaugural one this year for a responsive NRO mission.
You got a lot of things coming up. I mean, do you have a favorite?
My favorite is always the next one. The next launch, the next lunar lander, the next one.
Very well put. I know we're all very much looking forward to that. Jason, thank you so much. I mean, everyone here is so excited. Can we get another cheer from the crowd?
Yeah, definitely a proud moment for everyone.
Awesome. All righty, well, we'll go ahead and send it back to our hostess.
Very proud moment for everyone.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Jason. Congratulations once again. If you are just joining us moments ago, Firefly became the second American commercial company to touch down on the moon with its Blue Ghost lunar lander. Now, we're standing by right now for that first moon image, which we expect in the next 15 minutes or so. So while we wait, Bridget, do you mind giving us a little bit of a preview on what's next for this mission?
Yeah, sure. So this is going to be the beginning of our surface operations. Within the next 2 hours, Blue Ghost will perform surface commissioning in order to activate each subsystem and perform health checks. We'll also deploy and calibrate that X-band antenna that we spoke about earlier. That's going to increase our bandwidth and begin downlinking HD imagery and video. And then following surface commissioning, we're going to begin those 14 days of the payload operations.
Great. So that includes deploying that surface access arm with the lunar planet vac sample. That's that little vacuum to collect some samples.
right up there, you can see on the screen.
We're going to vacuum the moon. That's always good.
Is also going to deploy
Make it nice and tidy for when humans get there.
magnetotelluric sounder electrodes, or LMS, on the lunar surface, in addition to a mast on Blue Ghost's top deck, which stands 2 meters above the lander to help study the deep interior of the moon. We'll also begin subsurface drilling operations with the Lister payload that remains attached to Blue Ghost.
So that will be really great. And after the first image, there's a lot more to come from over the 14 days of surface operations, literally. There's that solar eclipse that the team expects to capture on March 14th, where the Earth blocks the sun from the moon's surface. And then we also have a few days later to capture that lunar sunset we discussed early on in the broadcast, but that is expected on March 16th, where it will verify that dust levitation phenomenon that was seen at the last Apollo, when the last Apollo astronauts were on the moon during Apollo 17.
Exactly.
And so finally, Blue Ghost is expected to operate for some hours into the lunar night as well. So it means that there's still so much to look forward to during this mission. I'm really excited.
Me too. And so while we continue to stand by for that first moon image, we're going to go ahead and check back in with Ray, who was just in the Mission Operations Center with the Firefly team during that impressive landing.
Hey, thank you, Bridget. Joining us once again is Ray Allensworth, Firefly Spacecraft Program Director. Ray, I mean, how you feeling? What an awesome time.
My heart's beating so fast.
I know, I can see that. It's so exciting. Yeah. You know, you were just in Firefly's Mission Operations Center. Can you tell us how everyone was feeling in that moment, what it was like?
It was so quiet for just it was like a 9-minute burn, 12 minutes, like getting, through PDI, pitch over, and then you just hear these 4 call outs. And I think I'll just forever hear, our chief engineer Will's, voice, we successfully landed on the moon, and then just everybody kind of lost their minds. I'm sure y'all did too. Yeah.
We sure did. It was great. Now Blue Ghost is on the moon.
Yeah.
What's the team doing now?
So they're all business again, so I had to leave because I couldn't keep it together. So they are immediately going into health and safety, and then it's really just immediate into payload ops. So, we landed at the beginning of the lunar day, and we want to maximize as much of that time as possible for all the payloads. So they will immediately dive into that, and really these first 3 days after landing are going to be just jam-packed. Just try to get every single payload op going that we possibly can.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about those surface operations and now kind of some of the most exciting moments that we can look forward to while Blue Ghost is on the moon?
Yeah, so I like to say that when we land on the moon, I think the lander kind of comes to life. The Lister drill will go down, the surface access arm will deploy, we'll have probes coming off the side of the lander, so a lot of different payload ops, but there's also a couple other phenomena that we'll see on the surface. So we will witness an eclipse while we're on the surface, and then at sunset, we expect to see this kind of phenomena where the dust levitates off the surface. So that we'll try to, we will photograph and video all of that.
That is so cool. When it was being discussed earlier, that lunar sunset, I think we were all like, wait, what? What are we going to be looking at? Exactly. No, I love that. This, as was mentioned, isn't going to be the only lunar mission for Firefly. Can you tell us a little bit more about the upcoming ones, what we can expect, how those will look?
Yeah, absolutely. So Blue Ghost Mission 2 is well underway. We're moving into the integration phase of that mission. That mission is really special because it's not just a lander, but it's also our Electra vehicle that's going with it. So that'll help get it to lunar orbit. And then once we deploy Blue Ghost in one of our NASA payloads, that will actually act as a comms relay. So that is, far past CDR in integration, getting ready to go. And then we just did our kickoff for Mission 3. So we're gonna be pretty busy for the next couple years.
Very busy. I mean, and you just mentioned for the next lunar mission, you have to use, it's not just going to be the lander that you're sending, you're also using the orbiting spacecraft, the Electra vehicle. tell us how that works, why it's needed, for Blue Ghost Mission 2.
Yeah, so Blue Ghost Mission 2, we have a lot more payload mass, but also we're deploying a fairly large payload lunar pathfinder into orbit. The transfer stage will get that whole stack to lunar orbit once we deploy from the launch vehicle. And then it deploys LP, and then again, it's staying as a comms relay, so we'll be on the far side. So we're really designing that vehicle to be able to operate for 5 years. So it's a pretty robust vehicle, and it shares a lot of heritage from the lander.
That's really cool. I cannot wait for that one to get underway. And as you mentioned, the second mission, that's going to go to the far side. Are there any challenges or any differences, I guess, with landing, right now on the near side compared to now for the next one that's going to be a different location?
I think we know less about the far side. So, we had a relatively good amount of data for our specific payload site for Mission 1. We're landing equatorial far side on Mission 2. A little less familiar with that area, but really, it's really well suited for the payloads because they want it to be totally radio silent. So it's dark in that regard. We'll learn more about it as we go through integration and the mission ops phase for that mission.
That is super exciting. I can't wait to learn about all the different things that, you guys uncover along the way. Now, Ray, for you personally, I guess, what's next for you? What are you going to be doing for the rest of this mission, or are you now full steam ahead on Blue Ghost Mission 2?
I'm going to go to sleep and then just dive right into surface ops. I'll be in the mock a lot, and then, maybe a PTO day or two, and then just Mission 2.
Well, you definitely deserve a day or two of PTO. Ray, congratulations once again. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we'll send it back to our hostess, to Nilüfer and Bridget.
Thank you, Tony, and congratulations to both of you once again. In case you missed it, just moments ago, Firefly successfully landed on the moon at 2:34 a.m. Central Time.
Actually,
the Blue
almost
Ghost
half an
lunar
hour
lander
ago, guys.
safely touched down.
Come on, where's that
Christian
image?
delivering those
I
10
want
NASA
an
science
image.
and tech
I
instruments.
want an image.
Now, we should just give a heads up that we do expect another image, or their first image rather, to come through in approximately the next 30 minutes. We are standing by for that.
Ah,
but
30
let's talk
minutes.
a little bit more about what to expect and what took place over the course of the landing. So let's take a look at that incredible landing.
Okay.
Now that we're
All
on
right.
the surface,
I think this is might be where I actually leave this here, because I'm not going to wait around another 30 minutes and then possibly another 30 minutes beyond that. So what I'll do is I am going to end the live stream here. I'm just going to go to this one, and I'm going to end that there. So look, yes, it was actually a amazing thing that they've gone through and done, the Firefly team. It's been absolutely brilliant, and thank you very much for everyone for following along this live stream. If you liked it, you know what to do. You need to like, share, subscribe, and feel free to reach out and support if you want to. There's merchandise and everything as well on Aussienaut.space. Please remember that your support actually goes a long way to helping me continue doing what I'm doing. And I do apologize for ending it like this, but I can't wait for another 30 minutes. I do have other things to do. It's really unfortunate. Please watch the Firefly Aerospace Twitter account. They'll have some more information there. With the first image, I'll put it on my social media as well as soon as I manage to get a copy of the image. So thanks very much, guys, for joining me. I really do appreciate. And remember, as always, thanks very much for watching Aussienaut Live. And remember to stay caffeinated.